Can you solve this problem? If you get all the answers right, I'll even consider making you my husband. It was a sweltering August evening. At the summer party hosted by the company, the CEO's daughter, drunk on alcohol, started complaining to me. Apparently, she didn't like the fact that someone like me, a junior high school graduate, was working at this company. So, she decided to challenge me with some tough questions. Clearly tipsy, she seemed to enjoy watching me struggle. You can't solve them, right? After all, you're just a junior high school graduate. Looking at her mocking expression, I simply said, "Sorry, but I don't think I can live up to your expectations. Here, I'm done." What? Actually, you know. The CEO's daughter froze in shock upon hearing the truth about me. Now, I wonder, what kind of reward should I ask her for? My name is Noah. I'm an ordinary office worker at a well-known company in Kanagawa. I've been with this company for 8 years and am currently 23 years old. To my shame, I never went to high school, let alone college. In other words, my highest level of education is junior high school. To be honest, I also wanted to go to high school, even college. But at the time, I couldn't afford to. Noah, there was a call from the travel agency earlier. That's what my homeroom teacher, Mr. Taylor, told me back when I was in my first year of junior high. At the time, I was part of a large family of 5 siblings. My parents ran a popular local bakery and were always busy, so I took care of my siblings every day. I wanted to let my parents, who always worked so hard for us, have a chance to relax and enjoy themselves as a couple for once. With that in mind, I saved up money little by little with my siblings and surprised my parents with a trip. Little did I know that this would turn out to be our final goodbye. That day, just before lunch break ended, Mr. Taylor, looking frantic, came running to me to say my parents had been in an accident. While on their trip, the taxi my parents were riding in was involved in a traffic accident. Brother! Mom's big brother! When I rushed to the hospital, my siblings, who should have been at daycare, were already there. Seeing me, our relatives who had picked them up looked deeply worried. And then I was led to a room where my parents lay, their faces covered, like something out of a TV drama. The scene felt so unreal that I couldn't fully grasp what I was seeing. Just a short while ago, we were laughing and eating together. But now, all that remained were 2 lifeless bodies, unmoving like mannequins. This can't be, it's because I planned this trip. I muttered those words as I sank to the floor. The trip I had planned had taken my parents away from my siblings. Thinking that, I instinctively hugged my siblings, crying and apologizing, "I'm so sorry, this is all my fault." At the same time, a sense of responsibility washed over me. I was the only one who could protect my siblings now. What would happen to my young brothers and sisters? That thought filled me with a resolve to stand strong and support them. After the funeral, the remaining issue was, what will happen to us kids? Since both of my parents were only children, we had no uncles or aunts to turn to. As a result, the only people who could take us in were our grandparents. However, since they were quite elderly, my siblings and I had no choice but to enter a care facility. It would have been unrealistic to expect our elderly grandparents to look after my younger brothers and sisters. So going to the facility was an inevitable outcome. Even so, the greatest relief was that my siblings and I were able to stay together in the same facility. From my first year of middle school, I spent 3 years studying intensely at the facility. At school, I ranked at the top of my grade and was even told during career counseling that I could get a recommendation to one of the best public high schools in the prefecture. However, when I declined the offer, my homeroom teacher, Mr. Thompson, looked completely shocked. "With your academic performance, a recommendation is definitely possible, you know?" "Thank you, but my decision about my future hasn't changed." I bowed my head to the astonished Mr. Thompson as I replied. Over the past 3 years, Mr. Thompson had repeatedly encouraged me to pursue high school education. But my resolve never wavered, and I continued to write employment on the career planning forms placed before me. I want to make sure my younger siblings can continue their education in place of our late parents. With my current academic performance, I've heard I can get into this company. I know about your parents passing away early, but I don't think you need to sacrifice yourself like this. It's not a sacrifice at all. I just don't want to be separated from my siblings. I see. So, employment it is. In that case, let me list some companies that offer distance learning support while you work. At the facility, there was also a foster care system, and younger children could sometimes be taken in by foster families. That might have been a happy option, but my siblings told me they didn't want to be apart from me. Because of that, I decided not to pursue high school and instead focused on finding a way for all 5 of us to stay together. That decision led me to this job. With Mr. Thompson's support, I graduated middle school and left my hometown to work at the company where I'm currently employed. The company had a strong focus on hiring people from rural areas, and many of my colleagues were also high school graduates, which was a great comfort. While working, I also used the company's distance learning system to earn certifications and qualifications. By the time I turned 20, my younger siblings had grown older and started taking on part-time jobs to help support our household, which eased the burden on me. Big brother, I'll be late for dinner tonight because I have club activities at school. That was my sister, who is 2 years younger than me, speaking. After saying that, she put on her shoes and checked the time. Got it. I'll be home late too because I have a test for my high school courses. Don't worry about it. Big brother, don't push yourself too hard with work and studying, okay? You're one to talk. You've been busy with club activities lately. Don't worry about making lunch every day if it's too much. It's fine. You're working so hard instead of going to college for us, so I want to help however I can. Well, you're helping plenty by tutoring me. I'm grateful for that. I expressed my gratitude to my sister, who smiled in response. Currently, I'm attending a night school for distance learning provided by my company, which technically makes me a high school student like my sister. Though my formal education still lists junior high school graduate, the program includes content for university preparation, making it quite rigorous. Because of this, I often ask my sister, who is a current high schooler, to help me study. Feeling guilty, I apologize profusely, but she just smiles happily. Big brother, you're taking it easy today, huh? Good morning, big brother. After seeing my sister off, my younger siblings who attend junior high school and elementary school start waking up. Once I see them all off, I lock the house and head to the nearest station, as always. This daily routine, though simple, is the happiest part of my life because it's when I get to spend time with my family. But upon arriving at the company, I notice the department is unusually lively today. Female employees are gathered in front of the manager's office, chatting, while others whisper nearby. It's a sight unlike the usual mornings. What's going on? I ask a colleague standing nearby. Ah, good morning, Noah. Good morning. So, what's happening? Well, you know how the new hires are starting next month, right? Yes, the induction ceremony just ended, and today's the day they find out which departments they'll be assigned to, isn't it? I approached a colleague who had joined the company the same year as me but was older, and he nodded, showing me a document. It was the latest issue of the company newsletter. The newest issue included photos and names of this year's new recruits. Today was the day their department assignments would be announced, and after joint training, they'd officially join their teams next month. As I curiously browsed the company newsletter, my colleague opened a particular page and pointed to it. There, I saw the name of a woman with a familiar last name. Moore. That's the same last name as our CEO. Is she a relative? No, apparently she's the CEO's daughter. What? Yeah, and it seems she'll be joining our department next month. She's apparently an elite who graduated from the University of Tokyo. But why is she joining as a regular employee? From what I know, wouldn't it be different for someone whose family? Usually, they come in as executives or something like that. But apparently, she's starting as a regular employee to gain experience before eventually taking over the company. My colleague made a face that showed how tedious he found the situation. The other employees seemed to feel the same, their expressions full of unease. It was likely because they knew they'd have to tread carefully around her, given her status as the CEO's daughter. A situation straight out of a drama, ha! At the time, I couldn't help but view the situation objectively, as if it were someone else's story. But little did I know that the day I would be swept up in the chaos caused by the CEO's daughter was fast approaching. A month later, just as the rumors said, several new hires were assigned to our department. They all looked nervous, dressed in suits, some of which were so new they practically gleamed. Among them, one woman stood out. Her suit looked completely natural on her. She wore a gray pantsuit with a polished blouse, exuding professionalism. This had to be the rumored CEO's daughter. Nice to meet you. I'm Ashley. Her confident manner as she handed out business cards left everyone around stunned. She was strikingly beautiful, the kind of person who perfectly embodied the word elegance. A subtle, unfamiliar fragrance from her long hair added to her charm. Oh, nice to meet you. I'm Noah, from the same department. Thank you. I look forward to working with you. I couldn't help but be captivated by her beauty the first time I saw her. I felt my face flush with embarrassment as I found myself unable to even look directly at her. I felt pathetic for reacting that way. Her refined features gave the impression of someone strong-willed. However, in reality, she was quiet and reserved. However, her true nature began to reveal itself about 2 months after she joined the company. See, the manual says this is how it should be done. I disagree. This is how I would do it. That approach ignores the customer's perspective. Looking at the materials in front of me, I sighed and glanced at Ashley. The once quiet Ashley had grown more confident as she got used to the job, frequently asserting her opinions. This wasn't just directed at me. She treated other employees the same way. According to her, the department's methods were inefficient. Initially, her reserved demeanor earned her praise from colleagues. But now, her innate strong-willed nature, combined with the elegance of an heiress, was beginning to resurface. What made matters worse was her unwavering confidence, rooted in statements like, "I graduated from the University of Tokyo with excellent grades, so my approach is guaranteed to succeed." It goes without saying that her bold declarations left the rest of us groaning. Our department handles sales, so maintaining good relationships with clients is crucial. Over the years, our managers have refined the processes through trial and error, improving customer service and securing long-term contracts. But Ashley wanted to change the manual to fit her methods. Her approach prioritized profit and efficiency over customer satisfaction, which risked breaking contracts. Although Neville, our department head, repeatedly rejected her proposals, Ashley refused to back down, deepening the rift between her and the team. Hey, Noah. I can't seem to get through to Ashley. Can you step in and guide her? It was only recently that my colleague asked me to take on this role, and that's how I ended up becoming her mentor. Noah, are you listening? Sorry, I was just working on some documents. Ha! This is exactly why I can't stand this. Using these outdated materials is such a waste of time. That's not true. Our next client prefers paper documents because they find them easier to understand. That's exactly what's outdated. This is why junior high school dropouts just don't get it. She placed the materials I had prepared on the desk with a dismissive attitude. Even though I technically outranked her, Ashley rarely used formal language when speaking to me. On the contrary, she often spoke down to me with snide remarks like this. Since being assigned to our department, Ashley's reputation had taken a nosedive. Modern trends are the best way to go. That was her catchphrase. However, her methods didn't suit this department, where most of our clients were older and valued traditional approaches. Other colleagues had tried to point this out to her, but her pride seemed to make her resistant to feedback. Above all, her pride as a graduate of the University of Tokyo meant she had no interest in listening to advice from people like me or my colleagues, who came from lesser educational backgrounds. Even after she became one of my subordinates, dealing with her continued to be a daily struggle. This isn't going anywhere. Thinking that, I told her, I'm going to take a quick break, and left the meeting room. At the smoking area, some of my colleagues, concerned about me, struck up a conversation. So, how's it going with the heiress? It's tough. She's not entirely wrong about some things, so I can't just dismiss her outright. Yeah, I get that. But you're still her supervisor, Noah. I know, but I'd rather avoid causing conflict. Besides, if we're talking credentials, she's clearly more accomplished than I am. When I spoke hesitantly, my colleague, perhaps noticing my fatigue, gave me a reassuring pat on the shoulder. Did I really look that exhausted? By the way, Neville mentioned that there's going to be a summer party with another department next month. Really? Yeah, it seems like they booked a place at a restaurant. It's a good time since the new recruits will have settled in by then. At this company, instead of holding welcome parties for new employees, we have summer gatherings. The reason is that by summer, mid-career hires and new graduates have usually settled into their roles. While we've had many summer gatherings before, they're typically held within individual departments. However, this time it was a joint event with another department, which made me a bit uneasy. Ashley was already receiving unpleasant looks from people in our department. If she behaved the same way elsewhere, it might only make her even more disliked. I thought about this but chose not to say anything. Instead, I decided to focus on preparing materials for the upcoming meeting. With that in mind, I completely forgot about my earlier worries. August arrived. The period leading up to mid-August saw relentless scorching heat, with one sweltering day after another. On one such day, the much-talked-about joint summer party was held. The venue was a large private room at a restaurant, bustling with dozens of attendees. Since I don't drink, I sipped on oolong tea while chatting with my manager, Robert. Knowing about my responsibilities at home, Robert kindly suggested, "Feel free to take some leftovers home for your brothers and sisters." Unlike the tense atmosphere at work, the presence of alcohol created a relaxed and cheerful vibe, with everyone chatting animatedly about both work and personal topics. A few colleagues stopped by to greet me, exchanged lighthearted conversations, and then moved on. As I entertained these interactions, I helped myself to some raw fish, a luxury I don't usually get to enjoy. This is pretty expensive. I wish I could let my siblings have some of it too. While I ate, my thoughts drifted to the family waiting for me at home. Glancing across the room, I noticed a group of new hires sitting together, drinking. Among them, Ashley stood out, positioned at the center of the group. She was chatting animatedly with her peers, laughing loudly as she downed drink after drink. It was a stark contrast to her demeanor at work. Her guard seemed to be down, likely thanks to the alcohol. Ashley appeared to be in high spirits, enthusiastically discussing work-related topics with her fellow recruits. She was smiling in a way I'd never seen at work, showing expressions that made her seem like any other young person her age. If only she could show that smile in the office. I was thinking that when suddenly, her voice rang out louder than usual. "Hey, listen. My department is the worst." "What? Seriously?" "Yeah. The work is so outdated. And the systems are ancient. Can you believe it in this day and age?" In the relaxed atmosphere of the party, Ashley's complaints echoed loudly. It's understandable for people to vent during social gatherings, especially where alcohol is involved. However, Ashley kept glancing toward our department's table as she loudly aired her grievances to her peers. The colleague sitting next to me furrowed his brow and whispered, "Do you think Ashley's drunk?" "Probably. But if Neville hears about this, it could be bad." "Yeah, it could. But then again, she's the CEO's daughter. Maybe she thinks she's untouchable?" My colleague glanced toward Neville and the other department heads who were nearby. They appeared to be keeping things under control, pouring drinks and trying to ensure everyone stayed composed. Yet, Ashley continued her loud complaints, drawing glances from people around her. Senior staff keep looking over, but she doesn't seem to notice. Yeah. Honestly, it's getting pretty uncomfortable sitting near this. As we exchanged uneasy remarks and felt the atmosphere in the room grow tense, I began to worry about how things were unfolding. "Ashley, you've had a bit too much to drink." The voice came from Megan, a senior colleague seated near me, as she stood up with a glass of water and walked over to Ashley. She was the same person who had previously asked me to take over as Ashley's mentor. To be honest, both I and my colleague sitting beside me knew that Megan didn't have the best relationship with Ashley. Sure, this is a drinking party, but you do realize it's still an extension of work, right? What's your problem? Hearing that, I turned to look at them again. The new recruits sitting with Ashley all glared at Megan, seemingly annoyed by her comment. Even so, Megan handed Ashley the glass of water, her composed demeanor contrasting with the rising tension of the summer party. I was surprised by Megan's bold move, especially since I hadn't mustered the courage to intervene myself. But then I remembered Ashley was my responsibility now. With that thought, I stood up to support Megan. Unfortunately, this didn't go over well. "Ashley, and everyone else, this party is also meant to welcome you new hires. While it's a social gathering, please consider what you say." Why is Noah the one saying this? Well, as your mentor, I felt it was important to point out that you might have had a bit too much to drink. Ah. You're so annoying, Noah. With that, Ashley downed the remainder of her beer in one gulp. Even though she could hold her alcohol, the number of empty bottles around her made it clear she'd gone overboard. "You should stop around here." I stepped closer to Ashley to offer another warning. However, she stared straight at me, her gaze sharp and as if she was on the verge of saying something. Something feels off. As I thought that and moved closer, she suddenly grabbed my arm and forcefully pulled me into a shoulder embrace. Her previously angry expression transformed into a sly, grinning face in an instant. The move was classic drunk behavior. I've only attended a few business dinners as part of work. However, Ashley's behavior was strikingly similar to how drunk superiors acted when I had to help them into taxis. "What's your deal? Just because you're my superior, you think you can boss me around? You're barely older than me, aren't you? And yet, you talk down to me like you're so much better? Well, as your mentor. Oh, please. Don't act like you're not looking down on me. You're all just laughing at me behind my back, thinking, what's a Tokyo University graduate doing here, being mentored by a middle school graduate? It's the worst. I've never belittled your education or you, Ashley. Why would you make such an accusation?" It was true that we were both 23 years old, but I had years of work experience on her. Still, Ashley, clearly upset by this, turned even redder and yelled at me. "Don't act like it's not true. You're just a middle school graduate who can't think critically, so all you can do is cling to old-fashioned methods. I don't want to hear lectures about customers from such an outdated department. Honestly, aren't you the one looking down on us? What? I don't want to hear that from a middle school graduate. Sure, I may be a middle school graduate, but I have more work experience than you, and so do my colleagues. If you keep acting this condescending without understanding that, you're failing as a professional." Hearing this, Ashley's face, which had been flushed with anger, shifted into a more serious expression. She took a deep breath as if to calm herself, then faced me directly and said something shocking. Alright, Noah. If you're going to talk so big, let's see how qualified you really are. I heard you're a middle school graduate. Did you cheat your way into this company? What? I couldn't tell if she was being serious or joking, but her accusation left me stunned. Maybe you paid someone off or used connections? Backdoor admissions happen, you know. Don't you realize that's fraud? No, of course not. I didn't do anything like that. Really? Then why are you so confident? For a middle school graduate, you seem awfully sure of yourself. Did you bribe HR or something? What on earth was she talking about? Even though I hadn't been drinking, my head started to ache like I was hungover. I didn't cheat. I passed the exams fair and square. Impossible. This company's entrance exams are notoriously hard. If you're so confident, why don't you take this year's test? With that, Ashley handed me the tablet she had spread out on the table. Displayed on the screen was the company's entrance exam for university graduates. What was she thinking, challenging me with this? While I hesitated, trying to make sense of the situation, I overheard her peers whispering behind her. It seemed that this year's entrance exam had been particularly challenging, and everyone had been talking about it. Ashley, proud of her high score, had been showing off the materials to everyone. My manager and colleagues looked visibly anxious about the situation. They probably wanted to intervene but were hesitant, fearing the consequences might fall back on them. As I silently examined the test on the tablet, Ashley leaned in close and spoke to me in a soft voice. If you manage to get all the answers right, I'll make you my husband. I'll even welcome you into the family as my groom. And you'll be a candidate for CEO. Ashley spoke in an overly sweet voice, almost as if she were trying to tempt me. However, her expression was completely at odds with her sweet tone. It was a cold, terrifying look of disdain. It was as if her confident face was saying, "There's no way you can solve this, right?" When I placed the tablet on the table and began writing, Ashley burst into delighted laughter. What? Oh, your name? Well, of course, you have to at least write your name for it to count as a test, right? She then laughed loudly, her tone exaggerated and mocking. I waited patiently for her laughter to die down, then responded in a loud voice of my own. Sorry, but I don't think I'll meet your expectations. Here, I'm done. As I handed the tablet back to her, Ashley stared at the text on the screen, her expression turning to one of complete confusion. Her wide, beautiful eyes froze in disbelief, and the new hires behind her leaned in all at once to peek at the tablet. Wait, what? Isn't this all correct? Yeah, it matches Ashley's answers perfectly. How is this possible? Noah's just a middle school graduate. How could he solve these? Ignoring Ashley, who was still frozen in disbelief, the new hires began bombarding me with questions all at once. Scratching my cheek in embarrassment, I noticed how their previously mocking gazes had turned into looks of respect. Why, you ask? Well, that's because I was the one who created this test. What? Even though it was so difficult that we struggled with it as university graduates? Hearing their surprise, I decided to explain. While working at this company, I had been pursuing qualifications through distance learning. If I had attended high school, my academic abilities would have been strong enough to gain admission to a university like Waseda. Even if Tokyo University might have been a stretch. More, the CEO personally requested me to create the questions for this year's new graduate entrance exam. It seemed he intended to make the test especially challenging, given that his own daughter would be taking it, ensuring only the most capable candidates succeeded. Yes, I may be the same age as all of you, but after losing my parents, I attended a distance learning school where I consistently maintained the top rank. That was crucial because I needed the tuition waiver. As I spoke, I walked toward Ashley, who remained frozen in place, unable to process what she had just learned. She seemed unable to process what was happening, perhaps due to disbelief or the alcohol clouding her thoughts, and kept mumbling phrases like, "Why? This doesn't make sense." Academic credentials are important, but what matters most is building trust with people. If you only chase after what's visible, you'll miss out on what truly matters. Not wanting to escalate things or cause any more trouble, I quietly informed the organizer before leaving the event like I was escaping. I don't know what happened at the summer party after that. When I returned home and gave my siblings the leftovers, the rare indulgence of alcohol made me fall asleep almost immediately. Unfortunately, I caught a terrible cold the next day. After notifying my company, I went to the hospital for medicine and spent the next 3 days resting as my siblings took care of me. When I finally returned to work, I couldn't help but feel awkward. After what happened with Ashley and taking time off, this is going to be uncomfortable. However, to my surprise, my colleagues greeted me with unexpected praise. Confused, I asked what had happened, and they explained that Ashley, once so stubborn and dismissive, had started listening to others' opinions. At first, her peers and supervisors were cautious, but gradually, they began to open up to her. Days passed as I observed the change in her behavior with mild astonishment. One day, during my lunch break after finishing my morning tasks, I was eating in the cafeteria. Usually, I bring my own lunch, but today I had classes for my distance learning program. With a major assignment coming up, I prioritized finding a place to work on it over eating a packed lunch. As I took a bite of the sandwich I'd ordered in the cafeteria and focused on my assignment, I heard a soft voice calling my name from behind. Turning around, I saw Ashley standing there, her hair neatly tied back and looking noticeably thinner. The bold makeup and strong-willed demeanor she once carried were gone. She seemed to have undergone a complete transformation. "Please, have a seat." I closed my laptop and gestured to the empty seat beside me. She sat down, holding a water bottle in both hands, staring downward. Noah, I wanted to apologize for what happened the other day." "Apologize?" I asked in confusion, and Ashley lowered her head. Looking closer, I noticed her shoulders trembling. With her face turned downward, it was impossible to read her expression. What am I supposed to do? I'm terrible at dealing with silence like this. As I glanced around, trying to figure out how to handle the situation, it was Ashley who finally broke the silence. After that day, I asked my father about everything. "Honestly, I was drunk, but I couldn't shake the feeling that you were bluffing." "What did he say?" "He said the same thing you did, that you created the test. He also mentioned that the board members agreed with his decision to entrust it to you." "The board? That's a bit exaggerated." "It was just because I'm close in age to the new recruits and familiar with the current college entrance standards." My father even expressed his gratitude. I feel so ashamed for thinking that academic achievements were the most important thing. Despite feeling slightly embarrassed, hearing this from Ashley, the CEO's daughter, made me happy. "I've always envied you, Noah." According to her, she hadn't been looking down on me at all. In fact, she had been jealous of me. Ashley slowly began to share her story. As the eldest daughter, she had initially been raised strictly as the heir to her family's company. However, when she was 6 years old, her younger brother was born. From that point on, all of her parents' expectations shifted to her brother, leaving her feeling overlooked and ignored. To gain their approval, I poured myself into studying. That's how I got into Tokyo University. But even then, my parents were adamant about making my brother the successor. "I see. But I heard rumors that you were being groomed as the successor now." "That's because I begged them. I asked to take the entrance exam and go through interviews like any other applicant, so I could gain practical experience and prove myself worthy of the position." She spoke with a pained expression, gripping her water bottle tightly in frustration. Then, in a soft voice, she murmured something quietly. "There's no way my brother can manage a business." "Why would you say that about your brother, even though you're siblings?" "Noah, your siblings seem to get along so well. In my case, my brother was pampered by my parents, and as a result, he's developed the habit of blaming me for everything bad and running away from his own responsibilities. What? That's why he'll never be able to manage a business. He's not the kind of person who can take on the responsibility of others' lives and lead. Right now, he's still a high schooler, but soon enough, he'll become an adult. By then, it'll be too late. That's why she had been so desperate for her father to acknowledge her. Looking like she was about to cry, Ashley's face showed signs of exhaustion, with dark circles under her eyes, as though the tension holding her together had finally snapped. She stood up slowly and bowed deeply. I was in such a rush to prove myself that I wasn't looking at those around me and ended up spinning my wheels. Your words yesterday opened my eyes. Like this, I'm not suited to be a CEO either. As she apologized, she seemed so small and fragile, a far cry from the strong-willed person she usually was. I should have listened to her more and offered support when she needed it. That thought crossed my mind unconsciously as I gently told her, "Please, raise your head." Her eyes were already brimming with tears, ready to spill at any moment. I handed her my handkerchief and said, "If you're okay with it, I'll listen to your concerns and help you with anything you don't understand. Let's work hard together." "Yes." "Thank you, Noah. Don't mention it. I've been hearing a lot about how hard you've been trying lately. Everyone's noticed. It would be such a waste to give up now." I said that, knowing all I could do was offer her gentle encouragement. But she told me that those words alone had saved her. From then on, Ashley's demeanor changed drastically. The tense expression she usually wore was replaced with a calmer, more relaxed one, as if a weight had been lifted from her shoulders. Even her colleagues and supervisors noticed the change, and the workplace atmosphere became noticeably more pleasant. Ashley smiled more often now, making her easier to talk to, and I found myself enjoying our conversations. Our relationship also began to change. Outside of work, she started helping me prepare for my university entrance exams, essentially becoming my tutor. Perhaps because of her experience with her younger brother, she was great with kids, and my siblings quickly grew attached to her. "Hey, Noah. How's Ashley doing lately?" "Ah, good morning, Mr. Moore." One day, I found myself sharing an elevator with CEO Moore, who asked this right away. "Ashley?" "She's gotten used to the work and has been building great relationships with our new clients." "I see. Compared to before, she's much more approachable now." "Yes, it's a result of her hard work, I believe." "Ha, as expected of you, Noah. You've been keeping a close eye on her, haven't you?" "What?" His cryptic comment left me flustered, and he gave me a hearty pat on the back, looking pleased. "Ah, Dad, no, Mr. Moore." "Oh, Ashley. Heading to a meeting?" "Yes." "What about you? What are you doing here?" "Just telling Noah to keep taking care of you. After all, you seem to like him quite a lot. You even said you'd like him as your husband, didn't you? Right, Noah?" "What?" Caught off guard by the sudden turn in conversation, I froze in place. With a smile, Moore stepped out of the elevator, leaving the two of us alone. Feeling embarrassed, I couldn't bring myself to look at Ashley, who seemed just as flustered. "You really might become the CEO of this company someday." Her playful, yet meaningful smile left me no choice but to surrender. Still, if that future does come to pass, I'd like to be the one supporting her every step of the way. The way. The way. The way. The way.